Hello, Woodchurch. Right, last time we read the first chapter of Charlie Bone and the Time Twister, and we found out that 100 years ago, Henry Yewbeam, who seems to possibly be related to Charlie in some way, went missing when he picked up a marble that was actually a magical time twister. And we don't know where he's ended up. We're going to find out now a little bit more about what's going on. Okay, Chapter 2. Grandma slammed the door. Winter held the city in an iron fist. Roofs, trees, chimneys, and even things that moved were covered in a thick crust of frozen snow. Charlie Bone had been looking forward to an extra day of Christmas holidays. The new term surely couldn't start in this weather. But Grandma Bone had dashed his hopes. "No shirking for you," she said, in her usual sneering way. "Blaw's Academy opens come rain, wind or snow. The snowplows have cleared the main road, and the school bus will stop at the top of Filbert Street on Monday morning at 8 o'clock sharp." Her lips made a nasty backfiring noise as she said the final word. Charlie was a weekly boarder at Blaw's Academy, and on Sunday nights he had to pack a bag for 5 days away from home. On this particular Sunday, Charlie was paying more attention to the snowflakes brushing his window than he was to his packing. "Pyjamas, toothbrush, pants," Charlie muttered to himself. "Socks, clean shirts." He scratched his head. He was supposed to wear a blue cape to school, but he hated putting it on before he got to the academy. The other children in Filbert Street sniggered at him. Blaw's was an unusual school. Only children who were talented in music, art or drama could get in. Charlie had none of these talents. He was one of the 12 endowed children who were there because of other, unique gifts. In his case, it was a gift he often thought he would rather be without. He could hear photographs. Or rather, he could hear the people in them. As soon as Grandma Bone and her 3 nasty sisters found out, they had packed him off to Blaw's. Theirs was a family of psychics, hypnotisers, werewolves, witches, and worse. They were descended from a mysterious Red King, a magician of amazing powers, and, like all endowed children, Charlie must be watched, his talent nurtured. The doorbell rang, and Charlie ran downstairs, eager to escape the dreary packing. As soon as he opened the door, his friend Benjamin's dog, Runnerbean, pushed past Charlie and began to shake wet snow all off of his back. His feathery tail sent sprays of water flying across the hall, straight into the path of Charlie's other grandma, Maisie Jones. "You'd better drive that dog in here," said Maisie cheerfully, as she stepped back into the kitchen. "I'll fetch him his towel." She kept a special towel for Runnerbean, who was a very frequent visitor. The big yellow dog bounded after her, while Charlie took Benjamin's coat and hung it on the wall stand. "Are you on for building a snowman tomorrow?" Benjamin asked Charlie. "Our school definitely won't open." "Mine will," said Charlie gloomily. "Sorry, Ben." "Aw." Benjamin's face fell. He was a small straw-haired boy with a permanently anxious and nervous expression. "Couldn't you pretend to be ill or something?" "No chance," said Charlie. "You know what Grandma and the aunts are like." Benjamin knew only too well. Charlie's Aunt Eustacia had once been Benjamin's minder. It was the worst 2 days of his life. Disgusting food, early bedtimes, and no dogs in bedrooms. Benjamin shuddered at the memory. "Okay," he said sadly. "I guess I can make a snowman on my own." A door opened on the landing above him, and a voice called out, "Is that you, Benjamin Brown? I can smell that dog from here." "Yes, it's me, Mrs. Bone," said Benjamin with a sigh. Grandma Bone appeared at the top of the stairs, dressed all in black, with her white hair piled high on her head, and she looked more like the wicked queen from a legend than someone's actual grandmother. "I hope you don't intend to stay more than 10 minutes, said Grandma Bone. Charlie hasn't have an early night. It's school tomorrow for him. Mum says I can have another hour, Charlie shouted up to his grandmother. Oh, well, if that's the case, why should I bother to take an interest in your well-being? I'm clearly wasting my time. Grandma Bone swept back into the room, slamming the door behind her. Whether it was this door slamming of her bedroom or a minor earthquake, Charlie would never know. But something caused a small picture to fall from its hook in the wall. Charlie had never studied the faded old pictures that adorned the walls of the dark hallway. In fact, since he had discovered his unwelcome talent, he had positively avoided them. He didn't want to hear what a group of crusty-looking forebears had to say. Well, exclaimed Benjamin, how did that happen? Charlie realised this was a photograph he would not be able to avoid. As he picked it up and turned it over, he felt a strange fluttering in his stomach. Let's see, said Benjamin. Charlie held out the black-framed photograph. It was one of those faded, sepia-coloured pictures. The glass was cracked, but hadn't fallen out, and through the cracks the boys could make out a family of 5, grouped together in a garden. Behind them, the yellowed wall of a cottage could be glimpsed, and on the other side of the photo, beyond the stone wall, a small sailing boat sat on a velvety sea. Are you okay? Benjamin glanced at Charlie. No, muttered Charlie. You know why. Oh, here we go. Already, a thin buzz of voices was coming through to him. It was the mother who spoke first. Henry, stand still. You'll spoil the picture. She was a pretty woman, in a lacy frock with a high collar. A brooch, like a star, was pinned just beneath her chin. A boy of about 4 sat on her lap, and a girl of perhaps 6 or 7 leaned against her knee. Beside the woman stood a man in a soldier's uniform. He had such a merry face, Charlie couldn't imagine him with the fierce and solemn look of a soldier, but he thought he was supposed to have. But it was the boy, standing in front of the soldier, who held Charlie's gaze. Wonder who that's going to be. I can't breathe, muttered the boy. Hey, Charlie, he looks a bit like you. Benjamin pointed a grubby finger at the older boy. Charlie agreed. Same age as me too. A stiff white collar seemed to be giving the boy, called Henry, some trouble. It was clamped around his neck above a tightly buttoned jacket and almost brushed against his chin. He wore knee-length breeches, long black socks and shiny black boots. Ouch! Muttered Henry. His mother sighed. Is it too much to ask you to stand still? I think there's a fly under my collar, said Henry. At this, the soldier burst out laughing, and Henry's brother and sister dissolved into helpless giggles. Really, said the serious mother, I'm sure our poor photographer doesn't find us amusing. Are you all right, Mr. Caldecott? Girls mumbled, Yes, thank you, madam. And then something fell over. Charlie couldn't be sure if it was Mr. Caldecott or the camera. The figures in the photograph swung all over the place, making Charlie feel quite dizzy. You look green, Benjamin remarked. He led the rather shaken Charlie into the kitchen, where Maisie was still rubbing Runnerbeam with a towel. Oh dear, said Maisie, taking in the situation at a glance. Have you had one of your thingies, Charlie? He has, said Benjamin. There was a loud sizzle as Charlie's mother, Amy, dropped an exciting-looking vegetable into a frying pan. What was it this time, my love? She asked. Charlie put the photograph on the kitchen table. This fell off the wall when Grandma Bone slammed her door again. It's a wonder there are any doors left hanging in this house the way that woman slams them, said Maisie, emptying the cracked glass into a newspaper. What with that slamming and your Uncle Peyton's light bulbs and your mum's rotten vegetables, I sometimes think I'd be better off in a home for the elderly. Everyone ignored this remark. They'd all heard it so many times before. Maisie wasn't even old enough to be in a home, and she'd been told 100 times that her family couldn't do without her. So, do you know who these people are? Charlie pointed to the family in the black frame. Without the cracked glass, the soldier and his family could be seen a lot more clearly. Charlie's mother came and looked over his shoulder. "They must be the Yewbeams," she said. "Grandma Bones' relations. Why don't you go and ask her?" "Fat chance," said Charlie. "I'll ask Uncle Peyton before I go to bed. Come on, Ben." Tucking the black frame under his arm, Charlie led Benjamin and Runnerbean up to his room. An hour playing computer games passed very quickly, and then Grandma Bone was hammering on Charlie's door and telling him, "Get that dog off your bed!" How did she guess? But then, some of the Yewbeams had powers. The boy trailed downstairs with Runnerbean behind them, and Charlie let Benjamin and his dog out of the front door. He stood in the hall for a moment, staring at the rectangle of pale wallpaper where the framed photograph had once hung. What had caused the photo to fall? Could it really have been with the door being slammed? In this house, the force at work was bound to be even more mysterious. "Perhaps Uncle Peyton will know," Charlie murmured, and he ran upstairs. Uncle Peyton was Grandma Bones' brother, but he was 20 years younger than her, and he had a good sense of humour. He also had a very cool talent for exploding light bulbs when he got near them, so he spent most of the day in his room and only went out after dark. Even in the daytime, lights were on in shops. At night, he wasn't so easily seen. Charlie retrieved the photograph from his room and knocked on his uncle's door, ignoring the permanent "Do Not Disturb" sign. There was no response to his first knock, but his second drew an irritated, "What is it?" "It's about a photo, Uncle Peyton." "Are you hearing voices again?" "Afraid so." "Come on in, then." This was said in a very weary tone. An extremely tall man, with a great amount of untidy black hair, looked up from a desk by the window. As he moved, his elbow sent a stack of books toppling to the floor. "Oh, bother," said the tall man. Peyton was writing a history of his family, the Yewbeams, and he needed a great many books to help him do it. "Where's the photo, then? Come on, show it to me." Peyton clicked his fingers impatiently. Charlie laid the photo in front of his uncle. "Who are they?" Peyton squinted at the family group. "Ah, that's my father." He pointed to the small boy sitting on his mother's knee. "And that," putting an ink-stained finger beside the girl, "that's poor Daphne, and she died of diphtheria. The soldier is my grandfather, Colonel Henry Yewbeam, a very merry man. He was on leave from the army. There was a great war on, you know. And that's my grandmother Grace. She was an artist, a very talented one." "And the other boy?" "That? Good Lord, Charlie, he looks rather like you. I never realised that before." "His hair is different, but I suppose he could have had it squashed down or something." No amount of squashing would keep Charlie's thick, springy hair flat. Poor Henry," muttered Peyton. "He disappeared." "How?" Charlie was mesmerised. "They were staying at Blaw's, Henry and James, while their sister Daphne was poorly. It was the coldest winter in a century. My father has never forgotten it. One day, in the middle of a game of marbles, Henry vanished." Peyton stroked his chin. "My poor father. Suddenly he was an only child, and he idolised his brother." "Vanished," murmured Charlie. "My father always suspected his cousin Ezekiel. He thought he might have something to do with it. You see, he was jealous of Henry. Ezekiel was a rotten magician, but Henry was just naturally clever." "Is that the Ezekiel who's—" "Yes, Dr. Blaw's grandfather. He's still there, festering away somewhere in the school, surrounded by gas lamps and bad magic." "Wow! So he's about 100 years old!" "At least," said Peyton. He leaned forward. "Tell me, Charlie, these voices you hear, Do they ever say anything that isn't directly connected to that moment in time when they were being photographed? No, said Charlie. Not yet. I don't like looking at them for too long. Pity, said Peyton. Could be interesting. Here you are, then. He held out the photograph. No thanks, said Charlie. You keep it. Peyton looked disappointed. My father would be so happy to know a little more. Is he still alive, then? Charlie was surprised. He'd never seen his great-grandfather James. In fact, he'd never heard anyone even speak of him. Yes, he's a grand old fellow, said Peyton. He's in his 90s now, but he still lives in that very same cottage by the sea. He tapped the photograph. I visit him every month. If I start at midnight, I can drive there before sunup. What about Grandma and the aunts? They're his daughters, aren't they? Uncle Peyton made one of his "here comes a bit of a scandal" expressions. His thin lips compressed and his long eyebrows arched up towards his hairline. There was a rift, Charlie. A terrible argument. Long, long ago. I can hardly remember what caused it. For them, our father doesn't exist. That's awful! But somehow, Charlie wasn't surprised. After all, Grandma Bone wouldn't speak of Lyle, her only son, and Charlie's father. When he vanished, she had simply sliced him out of her heart. Charlie said good night to his uncle and went to bed. But as he lay awake, trying to imagine his first day back at Blaw's, Henry Yewbeam's mischievous face kept breaking into his thoughts. How had he disappeared? And where did he go? Okay, that is the end of Chapter 2 of Charlie Bone and the Time Twister. I wonder what's going to happen in the next chapter of the book. Let me know your thoughts by leaving a comment in the Google Classroom section, and we'll find out if you're right tomorrow.